Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. I am JM, and this is a show where we hang out and we talk about things that inspire us, things that are beautiful, things that contribute to our ongoing quest for the best games that we are able to produce. I'm going to straighten my shirt up here. There we go. So, it has been a great year in Iconic Land, and we'll do a little recap here at the end. But today may be a little bit longer because we are going to be talking about quite a bit in our finale of Malazan, Books of the Fallen, Malazan, Tales of the Malaz Empire, Paths of Ascendancy, the whole look at the Malazan series as put together by Steven Erikson and Ian Esselman. And so we're going to get into it. Today's finale is going to be about all the things we didn't talk about. We talked a little bit about the books of, or a lot about the Books of the Fallen and a little bit about the Malaz Empire. And so today we're going to try and do a wrap up of the remaining books in the series, which is just sheer hubris on my part, but I'm going to attempt to do that and still do a recap of 2023 and kind of talk about what's coming in 2024. So, concurrent with the Books of the Fallen are Cam Esselman's Books of the Malazan Empire. And we've talked a little bit about them. Knight of Knives being the story of the night where Kellanvet and Dancer are assassinated by Surly as she becomes Empress of the Scene. We talked a little bit about Orb, Scepter, and Throne before, but now we're going to cover very quickly kind of the remaining books. Return of the Crimson Guard. So the Crimson Guard are a mercenary company that threads very heavily into Esselman's Empire books and his Paths of Ascendancy. And if you've ever read Stephen Donaldson's Thomas Covenant Chronicles, the Crimson Guard remind me a lot of the Blood Guard. If I had one question from our interview that I was unable to ask, was that the inspiration for the Crimson Guard, this group of people who take a vow. In the case of the Blood Guard, it's to serve the Lords of Revelstone. In the Crimson Guard, it's the vow to end the Malaz Empire, and it gives them the vow gives them supernatural abilities, both in fighting and long-lived, almost immortal, the ability to shrug off wounds and heal quickly. And in fact, Blood Guard, Crimson Guard, there's more going on there. I really should have thought about that. So the Return of the Crimson Guard is about this mercenary company coming back to Quantali, and it sort of continues expanding on threads that Erikson has laid down. Because we see some of the Crimson Guard. We meet Iron Bars in Midnight Tides. The Avowed, those who have chosen to make this statement and follow the Kaz Devore, get these special abilities. And so we kind of see in the Malaz Empire series a lot of the context around Books of the Fallen filled in. The war on Quantali. Stonewielder follows the Kulrilri subcontinent invasion, which failed. The new one is launched, and we follow Greymane, who was the High Fist of the armies sent into Kulrilri. We get a little bit more detail on the Storm Riders and the Crimson Guard, as well as the Crippled God and the Foruk Assail, which many of you who are reading along on the Iconic Discord channel haven't even met yet. We then get Blood and Bone, which takes us to the continent of Jakaruku, which is this jungle continent, and we meet the sister, Ardata the Witch, the sister of the Enchantress, and we kind of see this schism within the Crimson Guard grow worse, and then collapse as Skinner and these Dark Avowed, if you will, are sort of at war with Kaz. And what's interesting about Jakaruku is, one, it's one of Erikson's favorite. I think Erikson said it was his favorite book that Cam wrote. But also, Jakaruku is the physical continent that Alor, the High King, ruled over. If you've started Memories of Ice, you know that Calor ruled this vast empire, and these mages brought the crippled god down to destroy it, and he ended up laying waste to everything that was left. And he was cursed by Karul, Draconis, and Nightchill. And then he in turn cursed them back. And Karul takes Jacuruku into himself as the father of warrens, creates kind of a warren to hold Jacuruku in so that the land can heal. So the continent of Jacuruku, this verdant jungle that overflows with life, holds the remnants of Kalor's empire. And the Imperial Warren is the devastation that was wrought, that was kind of sealed away. By the way, tons of spoilers. Should have mentioned that earlier. And then in a sail, we get the finale of Silver Fox and the Talana Moss. We discover the secret of the sword that Erikson said surprised him. We also discover the truth of the Crimson Guard and their vow. If you have not read A Sail, I highly recommend getting through Books of the Fallen and then reading Malaz Empire. There's one other book series that's kind of concurrent with Books of the Fallen, and that is The Tales of Bauchelain and Corball Broach. Now, there are 7 of them. 6 of them are out in print. You can get Volume 1 and Volume 2 that each has 3 short stories. The 7th is very difficult to find, but is available for free online. You can read Erikson's handwritten pages that he scanned and uploaded. And then there's another one that's coming out. So I'm hoping that there'll be a Volume 3 so I can catch the ones that I am missing. And it follows the tales of these 2 morally reprehensible evil characters. Bauchelain is the demonologist, and Corball Broach, a necromancer who's a eunuch trying to forge new children. It's gross. But it's possibly his most humorous series, as well as his most philosophical. Bauchelain and Corball Broach can just sit back and philosophize about things, and as Erikson pointed out, in a way that you could not do with characters who were right in the head. They're a great quick read compared to all of the other books. Again, each one is just a short story. So you have one that's inspired by the Canterbury Tales, except whoever tells the worst tale on this pilgrimage is eaten by the rest of the pilgrims because they've run out of food. The Worms of Blearmoth, the Fiends of Nightmaria, all fantastic. Fiends of Nightmaria really talks about the nature of tyranny in a short story. It's wonderful. The other 2 series that are currently out, and neither one is finished. One is that are prequels. The Carcanis trilogy takes place hundreds of thousands of years before the events of Books of the Fallen, and follows the Tisti as they are riven between being one people into the Tisti Andii, the Tisti Leosin, and the Tisti Adur. We also get insights into the history of the Azathanai and the houses of the Azath and what they're really up to, as well as insight into how Hood came to be. And I don't want to say much more than that, because if you haven't read Dust of Dreams and Crippled God, that's a massive spoiler. What's interesting is Erikson took it, the writing and the tone of the Carcanis trilogy are completely different than Books of the Fallen. Where Books of the Fallen were much more inspired by the Iliad, these have a more Shakespearean tragedy quality to them, because we know how these stories all end. We know where they all end up, because the Tisti are, unaging, so we meet many of those characters in Books of the Fallen and Empire. I believe I remember an interview where Erikson said it would be like reading the Iliad over and over again, i.e. Books of the Fallen, and then going back to Troy and seeing all of the events that eventually become mythologized by Homer. And he points out that, humans have difficulty remembering things with accuracy in their own life. So when Rake, who's hundreds of thousands of years old, hears the myths and legends, he goes, yeah, that's probably how it happened. But we see the birth of light as an elemental power. We see the fall of shadow. So we're waiting on the third book. We're waiting on Fall of Shadow, which apparently is coming after the second book in the Witness trilogy, but we'll get to that in a second. So if you enjoy Shakespearean high tragedy, if you enjoy watching friendships that you know are just doomed to fail, or characters who you know where they end up and they start in such a different place, the Kirkanis trilogy is a great insight not only to these characters but to the underlying themes and powers of Books of the Fallen and Empire. And then Esselmont has started his Paths of Ascendancy series. Now, I have a conflicted relationship with the Paths of Ascendancy series. I really enjoy them. But they also demythologize some of the history and legends that we know about the Empire from Books of the Fallen. So it's kind of like seeing how the sausage is made. But they tie in very strongly with his Empire series. So you'll see, for example, in Dancer's Lament, it's centered around the city of Lihang, and we see the binding of Rylandaris. We see a lot of these things that then resolve in Return of the Crimson Guard. But the main point of the Paths of Ascendancy is it follows Dancer and Kellanved as they meet as youths, and they start gathering people around them. And by book 3, Kellanved has plans of empire, which don't really, as a stepping stone on this path to ascendancy, for Kellanved can manipulate the Warren of Shadow. We see the introduction of Whiskey Jack and Surly and Dasim Ultor, and we see the Crust Brothers and all of these people that become these Dujik One Arm. We see him lose his arm off screen, but we see him lose his arm. All of these people who become the major movers and shakers of the Empire and the houses of the gods when they are young and stupid and mortal. So right now there are 4 books in there. Dancer's Lament, Deadhouse Landing, Kellanved's Reach, and Forge of the High Mage, which introduces us to a young Malak Ral, and he's just as much of a dick in his youth as he is in his Books of the Fallen and Empire days. But what's interesting is it kind of gives us an insight into the background of these characters. I feel these may be closer to the games they played than anything else. And there are more to come in that series as well. I know... Excuse me. I know Cam said that he's working on the next one, which is going to be centered around the Seven Cities campaign and Dasim Ultor's death. So that covers all of the prequel series, and Erikson is writing a trilogy that follows the Books of the Fallen about 10 years later. And it's called the Witness Trilogy. And if you know anything about the Malazan series, you know there's one person who cries witness all the time, and that's Karsa Urlan. And we see the setup in the first book of Karsa's promised revenge on civilization. And so the second book is almost done, I believe, according to Erikson's notes, and that should hopefully release sometime next year or the year after, and then we'll get Fall of Shadow. So again, if you are enjoying the Malazan series, man, there's over 30 books planned. Most of them are out now, right? We know, we have hints that there's another Paths of Ascendancy, 2 more Witness books, the final Kirkanis trilogy, and 1 or 2 more Vachelane and Corbal Broach books. A history spanning hundreds of thousands of years, but not just intellectually. You can read the Carcanis trilogy and see the origins of the conflicts that resolve in Books of the Fallen. You can follow the characters through multiple series as they weave in and out. There's even a machete cut, if you will, of the Malazan books, which says, all right, read the books in this order if you want a chronological, so you're jumping between series and back and forth. There is no series like it in the world. There may be series that you enjoy better, which is fine. There are shorter series that I adore, right? Tolkien, Donaldson's series is 10 books total. Tad Williams' Austin Ard series, much shorter. I think it's going to end up being nine books total. But there is nothing like I would argue that Stormlight Archives and Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time don't hold a candle to the Malazan books in depth, in scope, in themes. So that's the end. Wow, I did it in 15 minutes. So I would end here. It'd be nice to just end here. But I wanted to take a retrospective on 2023. It's been a great year for Iconic, despite everything that's happened personally. We started up beyond the table this year, and I've gotten to interview just amazing guests and luminaries of the role-playing world, as well as having an interview with Steve and Cam of the Malazan series. We launched a great Savage Worlds actual play with Crucible, and sadly, the health incident that I suffered in June has kind of put that on hold indefinitely, but I hope to bring Crucible back in some form or another. Maybe as a swag product, maybe as an ace product, who knows. We've really partnered a lot with Pinnacle, did a lot of Savage Worlds recaps and deep dives. We've got more behind the screen planned for next year. The whole year is basically planned out. We're not starting with our Castles and Crusades month, but we'll get to there. The first week coming back will actually be a review of the mythology book from Cults of Glorantha, as well as, I hope, an interview with Bob Crumb, who did the beautiful art in my latest role-playing game, Urban Decay, a game of beat-em-up role-playing, which is inspired by Street Fighter, The Warrior, Streets of Rage, that sort of oeuvre, where corporations are coming in to strip mine your neighborhood and your city, and so you take to the streets to take your city back. We're going to have more interviews on Beyond the Table. Stephen Chenault, Shane Hensley, Rob and Jonathan Tweet and Rob Hainso of 13th Age. Hoping to get the gentleman who wrote Blackbirds, who wrote the setting of Blackbirds, on as well. Got a lot of things planned for 2024 and several other things that I can't even talk about right now because we're still in negotiation on some things. But for everyone who has helped us, who has shown up to hang out on streams, who follows us here on Twitch, who follows us on YouTube, who supports us on Patreon, thank you. I could not be doing this without your support. I wouldn't have gotten through the summer without your support. Bacterial meningitis, I do not recommend. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been wonderful to just continue to see the channel grow, interact with you guys here on YouTube, on Twitch, on the Discord. Thanks, John. It means a lot. We're going to do some changes over the holidays, roll out a new website, change up how the YouTube channel works, give people on YouTube the option to subscribe on YouTube for some benefits for just $5 a month. So there's lots of ways to support us. I just wanted to say, as always, thank you. You guys keep the lights on Iconic Production, and I really appreciate that. But that's it for 2023. I'm taking a much-deserved break for the rest of the year. Gonna rest, continue to work on my recovery, get some writing done, some editing done, and hopefully see you all at the start of 2024, first Tuesday of 2024, the 2nd, I believe it is. I will see you here for my review of Mythology by Chaosium, the 4th published, but technically first in the game line for Cults of Glorantha. Padre, always good to see you as well. So until next time, which will be next year, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I'm JM. This has been This has been Behind the Screen. Until next time, have a good one.